Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to build a workbench in my shop right here using 2-inch angle stock and 1.75 inch thick, 24-inch wide LVL beams. We're also going to use some 2-inch square tubing for the legs to help support it. So let's get to work. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone and measured the studs in my wall here. So I'm going to start on my corner down here, and I went and measured a stud, or counted for every stud in the wall, and I'm going to drill a hole in my angle here. And then for the back, we're just going to screw that angle into the wall. And for the bottom, for the angle to tie into the LVLs here, I'm just going to put a hole above the hole that I drilled for this one. So I'll just run along, and I might spread it out a little bit further. It doesn't have to have as many screws for the frame to attach to the LVL, but I do want to try. I did try my best to grab every stud that I can in that wall so it can support the most amount of weight. All right, so here's what we got. I got the frame. I got the holes drilled out for the frame with a screw. Now I went ahead and drilled my hole and then beveled around it so the screw would sit flush against the steel. So I'm going to catch about every other stud in the wall, but I'm also, whenever I'm done building this frame, we're going to use 2-inch square tubing as legs. And I originally thought that I would just run this piece of angle on the back wall there and not do any 2-inch support, but as much weight as I want this thing to be able to withstand, I think it's best that I put at least 3 legs of 2-inch square tubing on the back wall, both sides, and then in the middle. And then on the front, I haven't quite figured out how many I want to do yet. I'm thinking 5 total, 1 on each end, and then split up the 3 throughout the middle. Just because I want to put a bench vise on there. I want this bench to be able to take whatever I give to it. So we're going to reinforce it with some 2-inch square tubing legs. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I've already measured the width of my LVLs over there, and they're just over 24 inches wide. So when doing this, you got to be careful. You got this little bit of buildup right here on the inside of an angle. Let me zoom in for you on that. So when you're measuring your distance, you're going to have a little bit of buildup in here. See how the corner of that angle right there, that'll build up a little bit. Now, on something as big as this, it's not going to be that big of a deal. It'll kind of sit in there pretty nicely, but I want to make sure that my width is, I'm considering the width overall from this inside right here of this angle to there, to this side. And then this side will give me a little bit less. I'll probably be off a 1/16 of an inch there. But anyway, I'm going to weld this up from this end to this end. All right, I got it braced up. I got my holes drilled out for my studs that I'm going to grab the back wall with. And that 2x4, and just like these other 2x4s, are just temporary supports while I get it screwed in. And then I'm going to get the levels on it, make sure I'm level all the way across here, and then start cutting out my legs. And instead of running, because my floor probably isn't exactly even all the way down when they poured, so I'll just make sure I'm level all the way on the top and then cut my legs individually where they need to go. So I think we'll go 5 across the front with 1 in each corner, and then 1 in the corner, 1 in the back corner, and then 1 in the middle right here, just to give that back section a little support off the wall. Got these side angle pieces welded on, and now our inside dimension here from inside to inside, or from here, from the inside of the angle to the inside of the angle, should be just at the width of the LVL that we're going to set for our workbench top. And the same thing for that one down there. Welded up on the inside corners, outside corners, and then along the seam at the bottom. Okay, frame is done. Well, not done completely, but I do have it tacked up. So I went ahead and cut all my legs. Remember, I had to cut them individually because my concrete is not even. So I checked my level from the backside all the way over to the front, and then took my measurement down to the floor, and then cut each one of these little columns individually. So there it is. And I'm just going to go ahead and weld it up. Again, I went with 3 legs in the back, 1, 2, 3, and then it's screwed into probably about 6 or 7 studs in the wall there. And then I've got these welded, tack weld right now. I'm going to go back and weld them up, stitch them all the way up. And then I'm thinking about doing some kind of maybe a brace or something in here, like a little piece of flat, just angle down, maybe to give it a little bit of extra support from getting kicked or something like that. I might do that on like the 2 corners and the middle one, because I'm not quite sure what I want to do. Maybe eventually I'll turn these into some metal doors and then use this as like cabinet space. And I haven't quite figured out how I want to utilize the storage underneath the bench yet. I'm going to go ahead and finish stitch welding this thing together. And then I'm going to fit up the LVLs, which I have over here. I have 2 14-foot long, 24-inch wide LVLs. And then I'm going to take and maybe an inch or so off one side just to kind of clean it up a little bit over here. You can see better there. Yeah, so I want to take this edge off right here, clean this up a little bit, and then whatever distance I have left, I'll throw a 22.5-degree like bevel cut on the one end, and then try to have the overlap, because I only need about 3 feet out of the other one. The entire workbench is right at 17 feet long, and it's 1.75 inches thick. I thought about putting a little bracing in between, but this is some heavy duty engineered beams. I've had them, in several other garages where I have put some extra support underneath them, and it was a little over engineered for what I needed it for. But here, just to kind of have the space, be able to throw a vice grip on there, or bench vice on there. Next up, I'm going to cut the LVLs, get those laid in place. Or excuse me, I'm going to weld, get the LVLs cut, and then get those in place. Okay, I tried to use my little cordless D-wall to cut this beveled edge into this beam here, but you can tell, man, that thing just, the blade started walking. It just didn't quite have enough power to keep the cut straight. So I'm busting out the worm drive skill saw here, and we'll take it a little bit slower and get the job done. Okay, so it's time. It's cut. Now it's time for me to put it from the workhorses over here, and it's newly framed workbench over here by myself.
Thanks for helping me out, Lee. Well, the best it here is best knees first. Long pass. Yeah. Breathe out. Woo. Gotta find the center point. Gotta find the center. My sneeze again. What? Clear up the workbench here. Just in there. Hey, what's that? Come here. Oh, boy. Woo. Thanks for the help. Thanks. Oh, that's not like.
All right, a little bit of truth in it. Woohoo! It fits. Look at this. Perfection. All right, here we are. Hit the one side on. Now all I need to do is get it secured and find my measurement from here to here. And we're pretty much finished. I'll wrap it up whenever it's all done. Okay, I'm going to call it for the day. I took a little breather to eat some dinner, but I got one side of the bench done and pretty much secure into place. But I did run into a couple problems, and I did kind of think this was going to be an issue, but it's the fact that the angle right here, this doesn't give it much support. See how it wants to kind of kick back and forth there? So I'm going to do one or two things. I'm either going to run a piece of angle from the back side of the column here all the way over to the other side and weld it, and that'll keep that leg from rocking back and forth. Or I'll take and weld a tab on the back side of the leg and just drill down into the concrete just for these three legs right here. Because those on the ends are welded up, not just on this piece of angle here, but the angle that runs perpendicular to that as well. That should tighten that up. And yeah, because I mean, I don't really necessarily need to waste additional metal going all the way across there when all I got to do is push that in, screw it down. And then that gives the bench, some, like, it anchors it to the ground. I think that'll help in the long run. And then I cut this piece here. I got the right bevel. Bench is out of square when I screwed it into the wall. So what I think I got to do is I got to take all those screws out that I put in on that side out, get this bench set, and then maybe come up with another way to screw it into the wall. So there's that. That was about 6 hours of work, getting the frame welded up, getting the LVLs cut. I'll get this messed with tomorrow. I'll button up those legs. And then, like I said, I don't know what I'll end up doing with it. I may end up doing some kind of cabinet door fronts, just using some of all the extra steel that I have laying around here. I could easily make a couple buy some weldable hinges on Amazon and make a couple doors, maybe for that section there. But we'll see. We'll see what works after I start laying my tools out underneath. I'll give you an update tomorrow or whenever I get back on this project and what the finished product looks like.